Before we begin, tell me, where are you watching from? The morning light sneaks through the crack in the window, painting a house that feels more like a tomb. The air is heavy, thick with silence and dust, as if each particle of light carries with it the memory of time standing still. Thomas, with white hair and hunched shoulders, walks through the room. Each step echoes on the floor, a reminder of the emptiness that inhabits the place. The smell of bitter coffee lingers in the air, a solitary presence that accompanies him every morning. The cup rests in his hands, almost cold. He approaches the bookshelf. The picture frames, all facing the wall, are like hidden ghosts, photographs from a past he no longer dares to face. The wooden frame, polished by time, shows the silhouettes of a man and a child, a father and a son. Thomas doesn't have the courage to turn them around, to look at the face he loved so much, nor the gaze that so disappointed him. Only the silence of the house accuses him. Outside, life goes on. The sound of children's laughter and the squeal of a ball fills the street, but Thomas's house remains isolated. It's like an island of pain, a place where the sun can't illuminate the shadows of his soul. He sits in his armchair, the same one that watched his son grow up, and which is now just a seat for his loneliness. The faded fabric seems to absorb his weariness, his regret. His hands, once firm and strong to protect and build, now tremble uncontrollably. He looks at them, worn and stained by the garden's soil, and sees there the reflection of his own failure. Once, these hands cradled a newborn. Today, they can barely hold a pen. Guilt is a weight he carries, not in his backpack, but in every muscle, in every breath. The garden, once his pride, is now overgrown with weeds, a mirror of his neglected soul. Noah. That name is a whisper echoing in his mind. The name of his only son. The fight. The scream. His crying. The door slammed shut. And then, the absence, the emptiness, the deathly silence that settled in and never left. Thomas never forgave himself. Pain became his only companion, his only routine, and he grew accustomed to this prison of memories. That morning, a ritual of pain and hope, Thomas walks to the mailbox. He knows the box is always empty, but the hope of a letter that will never arrive keeps him alive, or at least keeps him moving. But today, something is different. There's an envelope there, no return address. His name, written in crooked, clumsy, almost childish letters. His heart, which for so long seemed to be beating, gave a start. Inside the envelope, Thomas finds a small treasure, a crayon drawing. The image is simple yet powerful. An old man with white hair holds hands with a little girl. The man's figure is sketched with hesitant strokes, but the girl's is full of vibrant colors, a sunny yellow and a bright pink. He turns the paper over, and the sentence written there in shaky, almost childlike letters presses against his chest. "You look like my father. Can I see you?" The phrase is a simple question, but the intention, he senses, is profound. The drawing falls onto the coffee table, next to the cold cup of coffee. He sits, his hands still trembling. Time seems to stretch out, and he loses himself in the drawing. A lump forms in his throat. The simplicity and purity of that request disarms him. It's been so long since anyone has seen him. It's been so long since anyone has truly seen him. He feels a spark of something he hasn't felt in a long time, hope. The hope is short-lived. He shakes his head, as if trying to dispel the idea. No, it's a mistake, a bad joke. He's no one's father. He failed his only son. He, the man who couldn't protect his own son, can't be anyone's father. He doesn't deserve it. The drawing remains there, a brightly colored intruder in a world of gray. Thomas spends the afternoon staring nervously at the door. He waits for it to open, for the little girl to appear and end the uncertainty. With every sound he hears, his heart races. A knock on the door. Thomas hesitates. His mind screams at him not to open it. He's used to loneliness. Loneliness is a burden he already knows how to carry. The presence of a stranger, of a child, is a weight he doesn't know if he can bear. But the knocking continues, steady, gentle. Thomas stands, his heart racing. The doorknob is cold. He turns it, his movement slow and deliberate. The door opens. On the other side, a little girl, her eyes too big for her thin face and her hair disheveled. She holds an old doll. Her Smile is shy, but full of light. "Hi, I'm Lily," she says, her voice sweet and calm, echoing in the silent house. "Did you get my drawing?" Thomas just nods, speechless. He can't take his eyes off her smile. It's innocent, non-judgmental. She doesn't wait for an answer, keeps talking. "It's just that I live around the corner with my mother. I don't have a father. But I saw you tending your garden. You looked sad, but kind." The word kind makes Thomas cringe. Kind? Him? He's never felt kind. He just feels broken. But her gaze, so pure, makes him question himself. Lily looks at him, unhurried, and he, in a gesture that surprises him, opens the door a little wider, and with a slow, hesitant movement, invites her in. She doesn't hesitate. She simply steps inside, and the afternoon sun enters with her. The ray of light illuminates the dusty furniture, revealing that the house still has colors. Thomas, for the first time in a long time, Lily, no longer sitting on the couch, swings her legs, her feet barely touching the floor. She looks at Thomas, her big blue eyes curious. He stands, a spectator in his own home. She doesn't speak, just watches. The girl's silence is different from the silence he knows. Hers is comfortable, his suffocating. She breaks the silence with a whisper. "You have such beautiful flowers out there." Mom's garden is full of weeds. Thomas looks out the window. He sees the weeds growing, but not what Lily sees. He sees only failure, lack of care. Lily's words echo in his mind. Mom's garden is full of weeds. He thinks of Noah, who loved flowers, just like he did. They used to tend the garden together. A brief, painful memory. The image of Noah, still a boy, running across the lawn laughing. Thomas tries to push the image away, but it persists. The past won't leave him alone. He feels the lump in his throat return. Lily, noticing the change in his expression, stands and walks toward the bookshelf. She notices the row of picture frames with their backs turned. She turns to him, her face frowning. "Why don't you show me the photos?" Thomas can't answer. The question takes him by surprise. What would he say? That they're echoes of a past he's trying to erase? He just shakes his head silently. She picks up one of the frames. Thomas feels the panic. She can't see. She can't see her son's face, her only mistake. But she already has the frame in her hand, about to turn it over. He takes a step toward her. "Lily, no!" His voice is louder than expected. The shock startles the girl. She returns the frame to its place. He feels like a monster. He feels the weight of failure. He can't even be kind, as Lily called him. He can't even hide the monster he is. The monster who drove away his own son. He sits in the armchair, and Lily stands a safe distance away, her arms crossed over her chest. Her confidence is gone. Silence is restored. But it's a different kind of silence. It's a silence heavy with unspoken words. Thomas, his face in his hands, tries to hold back tears. He feels the weight of his guilt. Noah's image returns. His face sad, hurt. The phrase "I hate you" echoes in his mind. He hears it as if it had been said the day before. Thomas feels crushed. But suddenly, he feels a small hand on his shoulder. It's Lily. Her eyes are brimming with tears. "Please don't cry," she whispers. Thomas lifts his head and looks at her. There's such sadness in her eyes that he feels selfish. He feels as if he's transferred his pain to her. He couldn't do this. Not to her. He stands, and Lily hugs him. It's a small, awkward hug, but strong. Thomas surrenders to the embrace, smelling soap and candy. A scent of innocence. He hugs her back, with a hug he hasn't given anyone in years. And for the first time in a long time, Thomas cries. But he doesn't cry out of sadness. He cries out of relief. The guilt is still there, but the pain for Lily's
the first
visits
time
became a
isn't his
sacred
alone.
routine. Thomas and Lily not only had lunch together but also spent hours in the garden. He taught her how to water, recognize seeds, and tell a flower from a weed. Lily learned with a twinkle in her eye. And Thomas, for the first time in a long time, felt useful. The weeds began to disappear, and the flowers, once suffocated, began to bloom again. The garden, once a mirror of his neglected soul, now slowly transformed into a reflection of his hope. Lily was his gardener, his spark, and he was her gardener, tending a small plant that would become a tree. He discovered the flowers were just a pretext. He was tending to himself, his soul, his heart. One day, Lily finds him in the garden, sitting on a bench, staring into space. Are you sad again? She asks, her voice filled with concern. No, little one. I'm just thinking, he answers. And it's the truth. He's thinking about Noah, thinking about what it would be like if Noah saw him gardening, happy, with a child by his side. But he pushes the thought away. Can I ask you something? She asks, her voice low. Of course, he says. Why are you alone? The question, simple and direct, hits him like an arrow. He hesitates. What would he tell her? The truth? The truth was too heavy. I made a mistake, and I pushed away the only person I loved. Lily looks at him tenderly. I have a secret too, she says. What? He asks. I don't have a father. Mom said he left when I was a baby. Thomas's heart aches. He feels her pain, the pain of her absence, the pain he caused. He hugs her, and she nestles into his arms. And why are you crying? She asks when he releases her. Because, he hesitates. Because it's been a long time since anyone called me family. His voice trembles. The family he had is gone. The family he lost because of a mistake. And now, the family he doesn't deserve is there, in front of him. And he can't hide his emotion. So, can I call you Dad? She asks suddenly. Thomas's world stops. The phrase, spoken with such innocence, is a heavy burden. He is no one's father. He has failed as a father. He cannot accept that title. He shakes his head, tears flowing freely. Please, she whispers, and he, for the first time in a long time, surrenders. He nods. Lily, he says, his voice breaking. Your mother, what's her name? He needs to know. He needs to understand. The question is a spark. He feels like a detective. He needs answers. Sarah Collins. Why? The answer is a punch in the gut. Sarah, Noah's girlfriend. His son's last love before he disappeared. He stands, his face pale, his hands tremble. It can't be. It's just a coincidence. He tries to convince himself, but the name echoes in his mind. Sarah Collins. The last trace of his son. The last link that connected them. He tries to shake the thought, but he can't. And your father? He asks, his voice hoarse. You said you never knew him. She nods. She reaches into her pocket. Mom gave me this when I was 8. She said he left, that he never came back. Lily pulls an old photograph from her pocket. The photo is worn and wrinkled. Thomas takes the photo with trembling hands. His heart races. It's Noah, his son. The photo is of him when he was younger, his eyes shining with a future he never experienced. Thomas kneels, the photo in his hands. He looks at Noah, then at Lily. The resemblance is undeniable. The eyes, the smile, the same glow. He feels the world spin, but he doesn't care. Tears fall, but they're not of sadness. They're of relief. They're of regret. They're of forgiveness. He looks at Lily. He sees his granddaughter, the life he didn't live, the future he couldn't give Noah, the second chance time gave him. Lily, you're my granddaughter, he whispers. The phrase echoes in his own mind. He repeats it, to make sure it's true. He repeats it, to make sure he's not dreaming. She doesn't understand. She just looks at him, confused. He hugs her tightly. A hug that crushes decades of pain. A hug that heals. He feels her small body in his arms. And he understands that forgiveness doesn't come in words or in letters. Forgiveness comes in small hands, in hopeful eyes. Forgiveness comes in a heart that only wants to call someone father. The revelation hits Thomas with the force of a tsunami. He embraces not only Lily, but the truth. She's not a stranger who happened upon him. She's the hope he'd lost, the second chance life gives him. He holds her close to his chest, sobbing, a sound he didn't know he was still capable of. And in that sound, he releases decades of pain. Lily doesn't understand at first. She doesn't know why the kind man who welcomed her home suddenly hugs her and cries. But she's not afraid. She just hugs him back. He whispers in her ear, "You're my granddaughter. You're my son's daughter." The phrase echoes in her head, confirmation that her life was not in vain. He kneels in front of her, his hands on her face. He looks at her with teary eyes, a look of regret, but also of love. "I'm so sorry, my little one. I'm so sorry for everything." The pain he's felt for years finally overwhelms him, but not in a destructive way. Crying is a form of purification, of forgiveness. The scene is silent. Only the sound of Thomas's sobs and Lily's murmur. She looks at him, and her gaze suddenly fills with understanding. She understands. She understands his pain. Her own. She understands that she doesn't have a father, but she does have a grandfather. She hugs him again. That hug isn't that of a child, but of an adult who understands another's pain. Thomas closes his eyes and sees Noah's face. He sees him not as a boy, nor as the man he's become, but as a ghost that has haunted him for years. But Noah's ghost, for the first time, isn't frightening. He's just a memory, and the memory is no longer of pain. It's of love. He releases her and looks her in the eyes. I wasn't a good father. I made a mistake, and I lost my son because of it. But I swear, my little one, that I won't make that mistake again. I swear I'll be the best grandfather you could ever have. The promise is sincere. She's a weight he places on his shoulders, and he accepts it willingly. Lily smiles, a smile full of light. You're already the best. You let me call you Dad, and it's in that moment that Thomas understands the power of those words. She doesn't see him as the man who failed, but as the man who loves her. She sees him not for who he was, but for who he is. He embraces her once more, and in that embrace, where two broken lives meet, he understands that life isn't about erasing the mistakes of the past, but about building a future that honors them. Time has given him a second chance, and he wouldn't waste it. He felt, in that moment, that finally, his world was no longer gray. Thomas's house was never the same. Lily's laughter filled the hallways, and the picture frames were finally turned face up. In one, a photo of Thomas, Noah, and Noah's mother laughing. In another, Noah smiling broadly, holding Lily in his lap. The house, once a museum of pain, was now a gallery of memories. And the memories, for the first time, didn't haunt him. They healed him. He and Lily continued to tend the garden, but it was no longer a chore. It was a ritual of forgiveness and hope. Thomas noticed that as the garden blossomed, so did he. His hands, which had previously trembled with guilt, now trembled with emotion. He was no longer fighting time, but dancing with it. On a sunny afternoon, Thomas and Lily are sitting on the porch. She's drawing with crayons. He watches her, his heart full of gratitude. He looks at her and for a moment sees Noah, not a ghost Noah, but a living Noah. He sees his smile, the sparkle in his eyes. He smiles. Life had taken him, but it had given him back. Thomas picks up his coffee cup, feeling its warmth in his hands. But he's not alone. Lily is there. She smiles at him, and he smiles back. He leans in and whispers in her ear, "I love you, my little one." She hugs him, and the hug says more than words could. And he understands that family isn't just blood. It's love. Sunlight spilled onto the porch, painting the sky orange and purple. Life hadn't been kind to him, but time in its own way had. He closed his eyes. The pain was still there, but it was no longer an open wound. It was a scar, a reminder of the past, but also proof that he had survived. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today.